Hi everyone, welcome back, and in this video we're going to talk about some reasons why parents may deny the fact that their children suffer from a mental health condition. Now I know this is a pretty touchy subject as a whole, and I hope you guys don't stray away from the video, and I thank you guys for tuning in, and without any further ado, let's get started. The first reason is, I guess, the most basic one. Admitting something is wrong with your child is like admitting something is wrong with yourself. Many of us live in denial that mental health issues exist as a whole, and then even as parents, we don't want to believe that our child or children may have a mental health issue. Like, I know we want to believe the child's going to be healthy, nothing's going to happen to them, they're going to be okay, live a fulfilling life. However, by not admitting to it can cause problems, because then you're causing the child to suffer without proper help, proper maybe medication, proper therapy, proper help in general. And the other thing too is that most doctors, like most psychiatrists, they won't medicate a child unless they absolutely have to. So if they think behavioral therapy is the best alternative, then that could probably be the first step on their road to recovery, to helping them maintain a stable ground with their whichever mental health condition they're suffering from. But also, you need to know that they might get medicated right off the bat too. It depends on the situation and how severe they think their condition is. But you have to remember too that even if they have a condition, it shouldn't be the reason you see them in a different light. They're still your child in the end, and they always will be. So getting treatment, when you do get them to that step where you try and get them help and you're getting them help, knock out the negative thoughts, right? Don't think that, oh, this is going to affect them forever, their life is ruined, they're not going to be able to have a fulfilling life, they won't be able to accomplish anything, etc., etc. Knock out the negative, because knocking out the negative will make it easier to parent them as you still are without judging them for what they're suffering from. It'll just help you, you continue to love them without being shameful, having resentment. But also, with that being said, it's okay to admit that you don't know what you're doing, that you're scared, and you're not sure what's going to happen, right? It's okay to admit that. You're not showing weakness, you're just showing concern. And it's just like a game of operation. You have to learn, right? And learning is a process on its own. So don't give up. And that's pretty much all I can say for that one. Just try and be positive, be optimistic, and see what happens. This one is a big point. Claiming that your child has a mental illness is not a cop-out for bad behavior or bad parenting. There is a difference between suffering from, let's say, ADHD and just getting mad and punching someone in the face all the time, right? There's a fine line between mental health and just bad behavior. Behavior issues can be corrected through classes, maybe parenting classes, counseling. Behavior issues are a lot easier to, I guess, diagnose and treat versus a mental health issue, which is a chemical imbalance in your brain, right? It's kosher, right? Everything needs to be balanced in that sense. Okay, the next step. If diagnosed, it'll ruin their life. Now, when it comes to that, it all comes down to stigma, right? If they're diagnosed, it'll ruin their life. Yeah, that's pretty much it, stigma, because there's so much bad stigma around mental health right now that basically you're going to get labeled no matter what you do and who you talk to. But regardless of whether they have a behavioral problem or they have a mental health problem, they're still children and they still deserve to have a right to live the best possible life ever, right? And getting them help will help them get on that track to living a fulfilling life. It just takes time, it takes steps. You're going to have to deal with a lot of stigma, a lot of hate, a lot of bullying, a lot of criticizing, a lot of mental abuse too as a whole, because other parents might shame you and talk garbage about you behind your back regarding like, oh, so and so's child is mentally ill and they're bad parents and blah blah blah, right? But when it comes down to it, do what's best for your child, because it's better that they get diagnosed and they get treatment and you know what they have versus them just being labeled a bad kid with bad behavior who acts out and that no one likes and yada yada yada, right? And I mean, it's not bad too if you get diagnosed with a mental health condition and it affects your learning, for example, because you get something called an individual education plan, which I've had, called an IEP. And with an IEP, you get accommodation for longer tests, you get like more specialized help in classes if you're struggling, you get support in general with an IEP. And in the end, you'll have a full diagnosis and you'll be able to slowly and surely help your child build up a good life, build up the courage to deal with what they're dealing with, and help them get ready for the real world out there. And remember, don't be afraid to ask for help, because a lot of parents, even loved ones, they're afraid to ask for help. You're not alone. There's help out there for you. The next point, it costs too much for behavioral health. Like, basically, it costs too much to get diagnosed, see a therapist, a psychiatrist, a specialized doctor, which is a psychiatrist too. With that, there's resources you can find. I mean, a lot of them you probably won't get till after the diagnosis, but you can check with community centers, you can check with maybe your local city, like city hall, see if they have like government funded medical clinics you can go to that specialize in mental health. But when it comes down to it, what would you do if you had to decide between waiting or not getting the care that your child needs versus borrowing money and doing what you need to do to make sure your child is well taken care of, they can function properly, and they'll be able to be happy? What would you do? I'd go with the latter, right? Price is nothing, right? Making sure your child is okay and safe trumps anything. And our final point is giving up on dreams that your child's going to have a perfect life. Now, this one goes back to stigma as a whole, right? You can't really know what's going to happen, especially when your child is diagnosed and living with a mental health condition. It really just depends on how bad the stigma is, or how bad, like what happens, or you can't predict the future. So let's say, a child is not diagnosed, they're A+ student, perfect life, nothing's gonna stop them from doing drugs, ending up in jail, etc., etc. But with mental health conditions, they don't instantly put a giant red stamp on your kid's forehead and say rejected for life. Because you have to remember something, there's fully functioning adults who suffer from some of the most severe mental health issues there are out there, like OCD, ADD, ADHD, bipolar, depression, schizophrenia, and it's not the end of the world to them. Like, they've dealt with the stigma, they've dealt with the bullying, they've dealt with the labeling, they've had to work hard to get where they are. And if you're already basically pushing your child to the side because they got diagnosed, you don't think they're going to have a good life, everyone deserves to have a good life. It's just a matter of what you do to make sure that happens. And it's a journey. You and your child, or you and your children, you'll grow. You'll grow together and you'll be able to live that life that you want in the end. Remember, there is no perfect parent, nor is there a perfect child, right? What we have are children who are born to us to love unconditionally. Our love includes responsibility of tending to their needs, whether we feel equipped or not. That's our responsibility, that's our obligation, and we shouldn't judge them, we shouldn't throw them to the side. We should be there to love, care for them, support for them, and help them grow to become adults, right? You're not alone. There's resources for you, and when it comes down to it, your child comes first. Make sure that nothing bad will happen to them. Make sure that they're taken care of, and make sure you always support them. So without any further ado, I think that's the end of our video for now, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.